Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Aftershow. This is not the show, this is the Aftershow. And it's on, I'm Ed Opperman, your host, a private investigator, and the show is brought to you by audibletrial.com. And go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report, get yourself a free audio book. So we were just asking Miss Tina, as Josh likes to call her, Tina, what do you think about that? The three Pauls on that boat. That picture of the three guys on the boat.
From 1968.
Yeah.
Well, I've looked at it, and I think that it is photoshopped.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a new wrinkle in this.
Yeah.
Okay. And why do you think that? You've looked at it very carefully?
I have, yeah. Well, it just has some weird things going on with it. Pixelation, for example, is not consistent. And, you've got people that look like they've been spliced together.
Oh, really?
Or somebody's head is cut off by a post. It just doesn't seem like a legitimate photo to me. But
okay, very good. Now, there's also an interview with Harrison where he says "fall" over and over, and that's supposed to be that's fake too, right?
Well, I do know that in Imagine John Lennon, that movie, George talks about Beatle Bill having a number 5 in Sweden. Which is kind of a joke, right? Because like Beatles were number 1 after number 1, and then it's like Beatle Bill. Oh, he's got a number 5 in Sweden. Woohoo! You know? Yeah. Anyway.
And what about that? Well, what about also too? There's another film clip where they're all having breakfast, and John says, "Oh, and here's the wife of a Beatle making breakfast for the Fab Four."
Fab Four.
Yeah, but there was only 3 of them there.
Oh wait, then that's the same time that they're talking about Beatle Bill. That's like that same clip.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the clip where they invite the homeless kid?
No. Oh yeah, I think it's right after that. Yeah, It's been a long time since.
Remember the homeless guy, the young guy, was living in their garden, kind of.
Yeah, that they're talking at the door or something. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. But, so you guys were talking about Help, right? And I just wanted to do a little Beatles defense here because, talking about, the frequency, the hertz, right? So, basically, Dr. Leonard Horowitz has written about how, music has basically been militarized, right? So he's saying that when it was changed to A equals 440 hertz, that it was done on purpose to interfere or conflict with the chakras. And so this musicologist, Brian Collins, says that the current tuning of music based on A equals 440 hertz does not harmonize on any level that corresponds to cosmic movement, rhythm, or natural vibration. And apparently this frequency causes listeners to experience greater aggression, agitation, emotional distress, and it basically causes people to become more aggressive and causes mental and physical illness. So what the Beatles did is they did Help in A equals 432 hertz, which is a more natural tuning. It's based on the Fibonacci golden spiral and natural harmonics. And so it's known as like the Verdi tuning. Mozart and Verdi wrote their music in this natural vibration. And so it basically is it's a quote good vibration, right? It helps to raise people's consciousness. It is like healthier, and so the Beatles basically were right. They wrote Help in this.
Okay, so then wait a second, Tina. Then they were tuned into that kind of information, that they knew what they were doing?
Well, I think what it was is that they just had sort of a natural feel for it. That intuitively that they tuned down because it just sounded better to them. Like, I don't know that they necessarily knew that, oh, it's militarized music at 440, you know?
Okay, but they were definitely, and I think Josh can chime in on this. Their body positions and help that was Crowley stuff, right?
Well, I mean, I've seen that, but
yeah.
You know, I mean, and I also said that they were trying to expose Sacrifice on the Butcher album. So were they exposed to any of that stuff? That's possible, but it still doesn't mean that they were willing to further that dark agenda. And in fact, why would they be replaced if they were willing to do that?
I do have a comment on help. It's especially the H symbol, the supposed H symbol, and that is actually, and if anyone who's done like a legitimate fair amount of research about Aleister Crowley will know that he himself was a thief of various occult traditions. He was the type of person that would go to the buffet and pick one or two from different metaphysical traditions and make them in his own image. The H is actually the Masonic call for distress. It's something that you wouldn't even use in a court unless you are about to get killed. You know, you wouldn't pull it out in front of a crowd, basically. If someone's about to kill you, you signal a fellow brother Mason or something like that. But that the arches on the arms are perfect 90-degree angles. It's been co-opted in many psyops, including the hands up, don't shoot movement. Regarding like Miss Tina, you're absolutely correct though. Even though me and you might disagree about the specifics about that, when it comes to music and the tone, I have friends that are actual like professional, get paid musicians with songs on major television cable shows, and the idea of using certain the Fibonacci sequence, for example, certain techniques to make music more open and natural. You're absolutely correct on that. Many very well-known but not popular musicians do use this technique. I will provide a bit of support on that. Certain things must be tied with different tonalities. It depends on the intent of the person who's not only writing the song itself, but most of the time it's all producers and engineers who add different gates or filter techniques to recordings that add and open up these sounds. So you're absolutely or you're right on that. So I'm gonna go back on mute.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that reminds me, the Beatles producer, I forget his name right now. Fresh memory.
George Martin.
Right, George Martin. Now,
the fifth Beatle.
Yeah, before he started that, he was like a cartoon producer.
Well, he was doing classical music.
Right.
What you have to realize, man, about George Martin is he was involved with the BBC Radiophonics Lab. It was a division of the British Broadcasting Network who created like gapping sound effects for cartoon shows, like you said. But they were also coming up with new ways to add subliminal tones, tape loops, cut ups. The famous artist who's actually one of my biggest inspirations is Delia Derbyshire. She composed the original theme for Doctor Who. She was using tape loops and pre-Moog technology synthesizers to create this like abnormal, like crazy, what most people would consider outdated B-movie sci-fi effects. But in those days, that sound is what most people would like assume magic sounds like. If you listen to the original Doctor Who theme, there's nothing being played with an acoustical instrument. It's all tape loops, the Mellotron, and early synthesizers. The BBC Radiophonics Lab was one of the largest. It was the British version of Lookout Mountain. It was basically a laboratory where they found out how you can influence people's minds by adding certain sound effects, the distortion, the contrast, things like that. I just wanted to throw that in there real quick, Ed.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, influencing people's minds is exactly what we were talking about earlier with the drugs and the psychedelic music. Yeah.
And when you talk about BBC, right around that time, all those BBC presenters, that was a cesspool sexual abuse and stuff going on over there with Savile, and even that guy who's that guy American Idol, Simon Cowell, paying the bail on a guy over there who was a pedophile. But do we have any questions from Ann or Patty? Ann says no. Patty, do you have any questions? Oh, Patty says no too. Okay. So what else you guys got? Any questions, Mike or Josh?
Yeah. The question I have is, when you say that John was replaced, that kind of shocked me. What's your evidence that John was replaced? Because I've never heard of that.
Is there any visual evidence on that?
I mean, there are people that say he faked his death, but
you can just look at pictures and look at videos. And John was really funny, and he had a particular sense of humor. And later, he's not funny, and he has. I mean, it's like John was kind of stout, and then it's like scrawny. And, I mean, we don't have forensic scientists who are saying that John was replaced.
So that wasn't, you don't think that was John, on all those, what was that TV show he used to do at Yoko?
Dick Cavett and stuff?
Dick Cavett, yeah. I love those.
No, I think it was John. I think they were all replaced by Sergeant Pepper.
Well, let me ask you a question. Why would they even bother to replace Ringo? Why even go to that expense?
Ringo might have been more important than we think.
No,
like how they've discredited Paul. Oh yeah, Paul just.
I don't know, man. Ringo.
Original Paul was pretty political, so.
Well, I definitely agree with you about Paul. Okay?
But when you say replace them all, what you mean? Killed them all?
No, I don't necessarily think they were all killed. I mean, there are so many clues and things that something bad happened to Paul. I personally think he was executed, but, but the other ones, no, they could have just totally been like,
executed how?
Like, shot in the head, basically.
Why would they do that to him?
To get rid of him and to imposter-replace him.
Yeah, Mike, I don't think it was an accident. I never bought that whole car accident, that craziness.
Well, I mean, there's ways to kill people, I mean.
But the Penny Lane, he's in a car with Penny Lane with the lovely Rita, that's so crazy.
If you look at the clues that are put out there, because we don't have a dead body, nobody told us what happened to Paul. I mean, we're supposed to believe it's the same guy, even though they don't have the same skull shape and facial structure. Okay, so if you get past that, it's like a different guy. Okay, so what happened to him? Well, what are the clues? If you look at the condensed cream of the Beatles video, it's very dark, and going along with the pictures, let me just tell you with this, if you're not familiar with this.
Look, I agree, Paul, however it happened, he was replaced, but what about the parents or the siblings, his family?
Oh, yeah. No, we talked about that earlier. Basically, Heather Mills was threatened. Brian Epstein died. We don't know if it's because of what happened to Paul. And Mal Evans was killed. And that was definitely because of Paul, because he was about to publish his tell-all book. Yeah. So, were they convinced nicely? Were they blackmailed? Were they threatened? Were they bribed? I mean, who knows what happened?
Well, the brother's alive today, but recently he was accused of molesting some girl in a restaurant. And then they dropped the charges, Oh.
Yeah. So, well, let me just talk about this movie real quick.
Go ahead.
So,
yeah, I'm sorry.
1974, Bob Berman's Condensed Cream of the Beatles. It has imagery that shows a car chase, a fiery car crash, a shooting, references to a dead Paul. So there's some death imagery, an imposter, a warning to keep silent, and then Illuminati symbols like a serpent, and Pyramid Films released it.
Oh, really?
This is like a little cartoon video about the Beatles, and it is dark. It's like, whoa. So we don't know what happened to Paul, but if you start to look at the clues, it's like something bad happened to this guy.
Yeah, Yellow Submarine, the submarine crashes on top of a pyramid.
Yeah, and you know what? There's that bubble with the other Beatles band playing, so there's a reference to two bands right there. Right? So it's not only Sgt. Pepper, it's also Yellow Submarine.
Yeah, Yellow Submarine, there's a lot of stuff in Yellow, and there's two Pauls
in that cartoon. Aren't they looking for Paul?
Yeah.
And it's like,
where's Paul?
Like,
where's Paul?
P is for goodbye. Do you remember that line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I watched that thing so many times because it came out when I was a kid. You know, so I watched
now
that
they
as a
say
kid
the
first.
Yellow Submarine is weed or something?
No, you think smoking banana peels. And I tried that. Nothing happens.
And they're all voice doubles. Those are not the Beatles' real voices. I mean, they're all, it's publicly admitted that they were all voice doubles, so.
Hey, 504 is back. You got a question?
Yes, I want to go back to something about George Martin that was revealed. George Martin was a music student of Jane Asher's mother.
Yes.
And that's another interesting connection.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Keith Davis chimed in before. He sent me a message, even though I asked people not to send messages during the show. But Keith did. Who's one of my other producers, by the way, who helps me book shows. And he said that Peter Asher's bookstore was called Indica Books. Just like
interesting.
Like the Indica, what do you call the
Indica Art Gallery, yeah.
Right, which was definitely processed. But other people I'm talking to, because I'm in a group with Maury Terry and guys who investigate the Process Church on a daily basis, and they're telling me that Peter Asher had nothing to do with the Process Church. That they came in, tried to sell their books out of his store, and he kicked them out. But my understanding was that he had a connection with the Process, which is why I've always talked about it. So now that's up in the air again.
Yes. Many questions, but many threads leading to this tapestry. But in my opinion, humble though it is, and I was a tremendous Beatles fan. I was 13 years old when I saw Paul at City Park in New Orleans. And I will tell you, no amount of aging could change this man, no amount of magic. Could it be the same man who appeared this October 11th in New Orleans again?
Now, what did you pick up on?
Pardon?
What was your impression? Like, what gave it away for you?
Well, what gave it away for me, first of all, I'm going to go back to when Sgt. Pepper album came out, and my friends and I looked at it, and we were astonished at the cover. And I can remember this was in my parents' home, and we said, quote unquote, what happened to Paul?
Yeah.
We knew it immediately. It was not the same person. He had a long face. He had a different head. He was taller, and he looked very strange from the James Paul that we had adored, as little kids. So, that for me was it. And then this October, seeing him, the length of his legs, the movements, he's just a parody, as you pointed out, of a much younger man. And, people still recognize me from high school at that point that I'm referencing.
Right.
So there's no amount of change due to aging. People know me without a name tag. So, I give that to you as my personal, and I was in shock. The people that I attended the concert with are younger than I am. I'm 64 years old. They're in their 50s, but they've only known the Fall. They really had never seen the quote-unquote real Paul. So, they were sort of chiding me, oh, you're ridiculous, and, that's insane. Don't encourage this line of thinking. But as I've been looking at Tina's blog and researching it and doing a lot of reading, and I had a lot of a priori knowledge because I was such a fan at that time, very impressionable. And I can tell you this. Go on.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, it's just no way that it's the same physical specimen of a person. The head, the chin, certainly the eyes, which were the biggest giveaway.
Yeah. Well, there was something very compelling about Paul. I mean, he didn't have to try hard. People just loved him. And Paul tries, and he's just kind of annoying.
Yes, and it's very annoying. And then he's flippant, snarky, and sarcastic. That was not the personality of the young man.
No, absolutely not. That is true. He was very humble.
Very humble and thoughtful. He seemed to be intelligent. This whole tapestry, And, I have no problem thinking that anybody can be taken out for sinister purposes. What they were, why it all happened, maybe none of us will ever know. I hope we will, but I like to keep the memory of, James Paul alive. He was, someone who we all loved and respected really as children, young teens in that era. And the shame is that most people are only familiar with Paul, those that have not studied or listened to the Beatles or haven't had the interest. And certainly your mind will play tricks upon you if that's the image which you have been known to receive as, quote unquote, Paul McCartney.
I know Paul has been Paul McCartney longer than Paul McCartney was Paul McCartney.
Right.
Exactly. It's over 43 years. And to me, the analogy is, and this is my last comment, it's like a soap opera. The soap operas have gone on now for maybe 40 some years. And what happens when a particular actor has to drop out or gets another offer? They replace the character. And so it seems to me the character of Paul McCartney has been replaced. That's not hard to understand at all, in my opinion.
It's not. It's like on Bewitched or on Roseanne. They just switch out the daughter, right?
And you hardly notice, yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, that's the new whoever, So, but I'm very interested in Tina's blog. I appreciate all the research. And as I said, there's some sinister things at work here, certainly. So whatever the overall...
Ma'am, while you're online, I'd say that we break the ice and everybody name their favorite Beatles song real quick. I'm going to go out there and say Rain or Cry Baby Cry. Everybody, what's your favorite Beatles song?
I'm looking through you.
I'm looking
I
through
love
you.
that one, too.
It's so PID.
Yeah, I love that one.
I think Blackbird.
Yeah.
But
There's so many.
Yeah, it's so many. Yeah.
And is Blackbird about Paul? It makes me wonder,
Oh, is it? You think so?
Maybe. It could be.
Oh, boy.
Could be.
Black head, black hair.
Mm-hmm. Interesting topic. Fascinating.
It really is, and I'm glad, because, we actually double booked this by mistake. We had two Paul is Dead people come on at the same time, and the other one fell out the last second. So I'm really glad. I think this went the right way.
Oh, really? Who are you going to have?
Yeah.
What's her name? She wrote a book.
Claire Kuhn or?
No. I'll find it in a minute. We have a break coming up.
I didn't know there were so many PID people out there. That's good.
Well, I was struggling, and we had that guy too who did that. The Paul is really dead. That video. I tried to get him too.
And Dave McGowan is you said he was at war with some other group of people.
Claire.
Claire Keane.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
He said really nasty things about me on his Facebook page.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. I don't know.
Dave McGowan?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
He's passionate. He's a passionate guy, But maybe we can mend these fences in the... But you always have Josh. Josh likes you. I can hook you up with him. It's going to take me some time to find this other girl, this other woman. I'm an old guy.
There's also Joel Glazier is also another PID researcher. He's like an old timer.
Yeah, right. Well, this was another woman. Okay, we're going to take a break right now. I'll try and find it while we're on the break, and we'll be right back after these messages. Patty, we're going to take a nice little 5-minute break. If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. These 100% therapeutic-grade oils help support the body's natural functions. You can click on her website posted on Essentially Tammy, that's T-A-M-I, to see the current deals and check out the benefits of oils such as frankincense, joy, valor, lemon, thieves, panaway, and many more. Email Jocko-Tammy, that's Jocatami, @yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. That's 352-239-8546. Hey, don't forget good old Amanda at Pacific West Bamboo. Pacific West Bamboo, 503-839-8126. You can reach her at demroots@oppermail.com. Pacific West Bamboo, your number one source for timber, construction, and craft-grade bamboo poles, plants, products, and more. They specialize in eco-friendly reclaimed wood products for the home and garden. They're located in Portland, Oregon, servicing the Northwest for over 10 years. They can be reached at 503-839-8126. That's 503-839-8126. Her Facebook page is Pacific West Bamboo. They can and do ship nationwide, and they're currently getting a new line of bamboo flooring, veneers, and laminates made from Guadawa bamboo, one of the world's strongest bamboos, grown and produced and manufactured in Central America using only economically and environmentally friendly practices and standards. Good old Mike Gray at infinityhomeplans.com. Check out Infinity Home Plans and Design Services, your resource for 3D and 2D draftsman services. They offer a multitude of products, including stock home plans, 2D digital drawings, 3D models, renderings, and more. That's infinityhomeplans.com. Hey, don't forget emailrevealer.com. That's my website, emailrevealer.com. And we offer all different kinds of services. Current place of employment locate. Let's say you're trying to locate where your ex-husband or your ex-wife is working so you can collect on child support. You contact us, we can locate their place of employment for you and help you collect on that child support. Let's say you think that your husband or your wife is cheating on you. Give us their email address and we can trace it back to online dating websites and dating services. So we have a multitude of services on emailrevealer.com. Hey, don't forget the New World Mexican Women. Okay, now you just Google New World Mexican Women. You can find their book where they first describe their love letters to their men and their sons and their uncles and their brothers who have traveled from South America to North America to work as migrant workers. But the women down in this town there in Guerrero, Mexico, they want their men to come back. So they've written these beautiful love letters and they've put them all in this beautiful coffee table book. First, the letters are written in Spanish, handwritten. You can see pictures of the people writing the books. And then it comes on after that, and it's typewritten in English. And then also, too, the second half of the book is teaching you how to make authentic Mexican jewelry from these New World Mexican women. You can find their book on Lulu.com. It's only $19, or you can download the digital edition for free. That's New World Mexican Women. And it's a two-part book where first part is the love letters, and the second part is the making the handmade jewelry, the authentic Mexican jewelry. But you can also contact them, too, as well, if you want to get a deal on wholesale jewelry from Mexico from these women. Okay, we are back with the Opperman Report After Show. I'm your host, Private Investigator at Opperman. We're here tonight with Tina Foster, who is the owner of the blog PlasticMacca.com. We got Ann Francis, my producer, Patty Walking Turtle from the Awake Radio Network, Mike Gray from Parlay on another network, Josh Brooks. Hey, Josh, you going to be doing your show on over there at CJ Mars?
I'm still in the process of recording and writing those. Right now I'm with bookhouse.bandcamp.com. We got a new record coming out in probably about a month.
And do you have any gigs coming up?
Yeah, too many to explain, man. We've been booking a lot since I've been on your show, you know?
Okay, great. Yeah, I know you haven't been on in a while, man. We really miss you. We really miss your calls, man. Okay, so now, where did we leave off in all this mishigas of Paul is dead? And what was the last thing we were talking about?
favorite Beatles songs, but...
Oh, yeah, favorite Beatles songs. Yeah. Now, wait, let me say a question, Tina, because I can tell you're a really super fan, you know? Yeah. And you got a big crush on Paul. You're fangirling on Paul. Do you think that interferes with your objectivity?
No, I think it's what has led me to be motivated to do all the research.
Okay.
Yeah. Because when I first looked at it, I didn't think he had been replaced at all. And so I really had no idea what had happened to him. And it just researching it just sort of, it's like a funnel kind of, it kind of leads you down a certain path, just the more research you do.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like when you start to research the doubles and it's like, oh, well, they have to be found in trains, then his being killed in a car crash doesn't work if it's 2 days later that the double shows up, you know?
Yeah, I never bought that car crash stuff, ever. I think it's a swap out. I think the Process Church was behind it, by the way. But now you started with Paul first, or you saw the other doubles? Or the doubles?
No, it took a long time to see that the others had been replaced too. But then once you start studying doubles and imposters, and it's sort of like, if something doesn't really seem right, then you're already kind of thinking, well, maybe that happened. But if you've never researched it or you've never even heard about imposters, then you're not going to be looking for it. You'll just be like, oh, well, what happened? What happened to so-and-so? It's like, oh, well, maybe they just, you know, had a facelift or something. It's like,
yeah, that's interesting too. Cause, you know, that's interesting because a lot of people you see with these bizarre, extreme plastic surgeries, maybe they've been swapped out too. Now, what do you think about Yoko? You think she was swapped out?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Okay. I'm not a big fan of her, so.
She seems to be a key in all this. Now,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Have you looked into Elliot Mintz?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. These are all things you want to look at.
This is such a huge topic if you start to get into it.
He looks like he was swapped out.
Yeah, Elliot Mintz, an interesting guy, man. He left California because he had a feeling that John was about to get killed.
Feeling.
Yeah, I know, because he couldn't get through on the phone. And had the phone numbers for the security guards and the gate and everything. And very interesting guy, very powerful man. I don't want to offend you, Mr. Mintz, but try to make my way. Now he works for Paris Hilton and all these other guys, a former agent of mine. Okay, and what else have we got to talk about tonight, guys? We only got about a half hour left. Not even, but 20 minutes left.
Really? It's that late already?
Yeah, man.
I got one thing that's been sticking in my craw that I need to point out.
Okay.
All right, Ed, you know me, man. I'm a musician. I study like the darker, weirder sides of things. And one of my main passions is the Manson case. Miss Tina, with all respect, there's no way that Charles Manson wrote Helter Skelter. If anything, the real tie between Charles Manson and the Beatles is that George Harrison wrote Blue Jay Way near the same street where Terry Melcher lived. The Beatles were in town near the same time. They probably met, but Helter Skelter does not meet the same lyrical prowess, the meandering guitar lines, the lack of verse-chorus verse structure that Manson performed. However, it is very interesting to note that his original demo that was going to be released on Brothers Records, which was the Beach Boys' proprietary record production, it was going to be released as The Wizard and the Family Jams. It was going to be called The Psychedelic Soul of Charles Manson. The demo tape still exists. Feature Dennis Wilson and supposedly Brian Wilson himself playing guitar and percussion on those records. So I just wanted to point that out because I've been studying the Manson case for a long time. The ties with the Beatles are dubious and, in my opinion, an extreme psyop. Manson was obsessed with Frankie Lane, the cowboy singer-songwriter. He learned guitar from Ma Barker. He was a big fan of more like spiritual type songs. He hung out with the Beatles because they were fellow criminals as well. They were tied up in the mafia with him. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm not, you know, I love you, darling. I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. Just a little bit of thing stuck in my craw, you know, because I've seen the video on YouTube of Manson's voice synced up with Helter Skelter and all that, but the music style of that itself is, whoever made it, whether it was the real Paul McCartney or the fake Paul McCartney, is a genuine, chaotic, structured recording. It's not free-form, chaotic magic like Manson's music was created to be, if that makes any sense at all.
Well,
I'm sorry. Yeah. I hate to do that.
There is an image, though, of the record that's out there that has Apple Records on it. It has Helter Skelter, has Charles Manson. It has Ceased to Exist on the B-side. So, and there are also people saying that Revolution, that the Charles Manson is actually the one that they're talking about in Revolution. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's Piggies, there's, Charles Manson had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, All Good Children Go to Heaven, and that was on Abbey Road. So there are some weird dark connections, and I'm not claiming being an expert about Charles Manson at all.
Yeah.
But as far as the dark Beatles being linked to Illuminati or to Satanism, Crowley, yeah, I mean, absolutely, I wouldn't argue with that.
It all comes from the same mind, you know?
Well, there's two things that really tie the Beatles into Manson post-conviction trial, is that interview with John Lennon where he says he was only doing what we told him to do. Mm-hmm. Everyone that, right? With the, you won't give me any more of your money, those lyrics. What's interesting about that is supposedly the official story is they got an advance release of Abbey Road and took it out into Death Valley. Supposedly, if you read Ed Sanders' The Family, that's the explanation for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, All Good Children Go to Heaven being written on the door at the Barker Ranch out there, right before he was caught. But what's interesting to me, people always focus on Piggies, Revolution Number 9, and Helter Skelter on that record. The real song that connects Charles Manson to the Beatles on that record is Mother Nature's Son. No one ever talks about that song. That song literally describes the public image of Charles Manson before he was convicted and the Helter Skelter theory was concocted. My belief myself is that these people were connected through the Process Church, and that the Process Church being connected to the intelligence services, it was all used as a big psyop to convict people, to discredit the Beatles, to discredit the supposed anti-war hippie movement, all of this stuff, man. I think you're right, but you're right in a way that you haven't verbalized yet, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, okay, so you know who Lyndon LaRouche is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, and I think he's talking about the post-replacement Beatles, okay? He says the Beatles were a product shaped according to British Psychological Warfare Division Tavistock specifications and promoted in Britain by agencies which are controlled by British intelligence. And these dark Beatles, the Beatles or whatever, played a key. He didn't necessarily say this, it's just another quote, I don't know who said it exactly, but they played a key pivotal role in the mass social experimentation carried out by Tavistock in conjunction with covert intelligence agencies like the CIA, NSA, and Britain's MI5, MI6. And then John or the Double or whoever said in 1972 that changing the lifestyle and appearance of youth throughout the world didn't just happen. We set out to do it. We knew what we were doing.
Yeah, which again goes along with McGowan's stuff. You know, LaRouche, you know, I got my own problems with LaRouche. I see that problems with everybody, right? But, you know, it's interesting that you would mention LaRouche because where I met Mark David Chapman was at Yippie headquarters, and we were physically at war with LaRouche and his goons. Physically, you know, they would come in and disrupt meetings and stuff like that, and trash, organizers and stuff like that in New York at that time. He's moved on to other things, but I don't know.
Hey, Ed, you know what movie you have to see?
What?
Inherent Vice.
I think I did see it, yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
The one with the... out.
Yeah, you get it on Putlocker.
Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah.
What'd you think about that movie?
I wasn't so impressed with it.
Oh, okay.
I sort of the same way I feel about LaRouche.
Oh.
Okay, not impressed. How's that? Or Mark Lane. I don't like him either. Line them up. Okay.
Well, Ed, man.
Yeah.
Ed, that also comes back into what I was saying about P.T. Anderson a couple of shows back, man. Believe me, Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the few, what I would call like an heir to Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, right. He's Kubrick. He steals.
And his film shots take his time.
Yeah, all of Kubrick's shots. Yeah, he.
Oh, really?
So let me get in while we're on film. There's something that people need to connect real quick. I was speaking about it when we were between breaks. Is the connection between John Lennon, Yoko Ono, and Chaos Magic.
Okay.
There was a midnight screening of a film made by a Mexican magical director. It was called El Topo, made by Alejandro Jodorowsky, Jado Jodorowsky. I don't know how to Jodorowsky off the top of my head.
Okay, I got a problem with him too.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, he's a great director. One of my favorites, man.
Okay.
El Topo contains all sort of crazy symbolism, but it was shown at a midnight feature as an encore to Yellow Submarine. John Lennon personally introduced Yellow Submarine, stuck around and watched El Topo. Afterwards, he offered Alejandro Jodorowsky $1 million in 1978 cash to make a follow-up film.
Oh, really?
He produced a movie that's called La Montaña Sagrada, which is called The Holy Mountain. Both of these films are available through Criterion. They're beautiful, crazy, insane, surreal, like dark, magical works. But Alejandro Jodorowsky, people have to realize he was the first person who was chosen to direct Dune before David Lynch. He's also world famous for being one of the prominent pushers of tarot, like for divination purposes.
Oh, yeah?
He's really big in the tarot scene. And you know who recently, during the Cannes Film Festival, sought out Alejandro Jodorowsky to give him a personal tarot reading?
Quentin Tarantino.
Kanye West.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay.
What has happened in 2015? Kanye West has made a song with Paul McCartney. 2 songs with Paul McCartney.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So you have a tie with Chaos Magic. You have a tie with musicians of different sorts. You know, we can debate their various metaphysical or occult leanings on a different show, but I just wanted to throw that out there. It's a very important thing to consider that John Lennon bankrolled a film that features extreme magical symbolism, because that's the point of the movie. It's not hidden symbolism. It's real life symbolism. You know, it's called Holy Mountain. Everyone should watch it.
And don't forget Magical Mystery Tour.
They're both out there on Criterion, El Topo, T-O-P-O, and The Holy Mountain. It's really tied in with the Beatles. It's something that I've been studying for a while. And his visual script for Dune is way heavier and way more messed up than the David Lynch version, if you can even consider that possible. It's available in a graphic novel version for people that want what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it's weird that Kanye West, in a way, has sort of inherited the internet scrutiny when it comes to supposed Illuminati imagery, but still at the same point, this guy is consorting with literal occultists, not like people that YouTube would say is evil, but people that don't know about it. You know what I'm talking about, right, Ed?
Yeah.
Right. Sorry for ranting, man. Sorry for ranting.
That's okay. And while we're on all this, it's kind of interesting too that Yeah, I'll do it. A.J. Weberman, who was the author of Coup d'etat in America, the first book about the JFK assassination that pointed to the three tramps as being Watergate burglars and stuff like that. He used to hang out with John Lennon and Yoko at the Dakota, and he lived right across the street from Yippie headquarters, where I met Mark David Chapman, So, for whatever it's worth, it's just, it seems to be a lot of weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah, Terry Melcher, right? Fall was hanging out with him, and John Lennon.
Yeah.
The Beach Boys and all that. I'm not sure what all that means, but.
Well, that's all that same process church stuff, which is, I think, is a major thing. I would love it if you would expand your research into that area, because I know you've done so much, and just see what you can come up with.
Okay.
Ed, you're the only one that's really hammering down on the process church. And me, man, I'm a really skeptical guy, but you're more and more right than you think. You know what I'm saying?
Well, tell me what you said.
I'm getting hardcore what you're talking about with the process. You're right on about it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But it's okay.
Okay, what was going to say, Gina?
Well, he had said earlier that I was right, but I wasn't expressing it exactly. So I was wondering if he wanted to give it a shot.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
No, I didn't mean that you weren't expressing yourself correctly. I just think you're right, but it's just, you're almost there. You know what I'm saying? The Paul is dead thing is, in my opinion, a controlled psyop itself. It was a magical ritual released bit by bit to the public to where it became what someone like Richard Dawkins would say is a mimetic cultural shared phenomenon.
No, because we have proof that it was replaced, forensic proof. So
the thing though about using a cover like Sgt. Pepper's as or photographs themselves is you can't really compare what is the right height differential. But with Sgt. Pepper, the whole point of that record itself is that...
Josh, it's not just that, the album cover. It's actual photographs with him walking with his girlfriend.
Yeah. I mean,
it's facial shots. I mean, it's not just the album cover.
Yeah.
There all the evidence is on it.
There's interviews too, where the talking styles.
It's everything,
There's some pictures when this new Paul shows up, what he's wearing, his hair is
Giacomo.
It's his hair is like a parody, and with the funny mustache and the fake, and his mustache is falling off his face. There's a lot of weird stuff. And Josh, what about all the deaths, man? What about Mal Evans and stuff like that,
I'm telling you,
it's the real story.
That is the real story. That's the point with this whole thing. That's the real story. Mustache itself was a fake.
Right.
Right? So dig on this, man, right? They can affect...
Well, Josh, Josh, here it is. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And let's just leave it at that.
No, what? Because
anybody, man? We're all agreeing that something's back with the Beatles. You know what I'm saying? We're all agreeing that something's messed up with the Beatles and something ain't right. You know what I'm saying? It's the specifics that hang people up on it. Listen, I'm going to tell you guys right now from my study, when you use actual dark occult magic, it will change your facial features. It can make people taller. It can make people shorter. It will make people look older. And when you get to the end of your life, you'll look horrible. Look at Paul McCartney these days. He doesn't look healthy, man. Something's messed up with him. I don't know if he's been replaced, but he's not the same person he was, pre-66. There's something.
I think, Josh, I would say it's an extreme belief to think that the black magic, could make them that much taller and change their face that extremely. And then we have to look at, too, why are people placed in his life? The guy's had handlers. Linda Eastman never left his side 24 hours a day for how many years? 30 years.
My name is Yoko.
Right. And Yoko too. Who said that? I think I heard Yoko.
504.
504, yeah.
Linda never left his side. You know, once she came upon the scene, and allegedly she was determined. She had spoken to one of her friends that she was determined to marry a Beatle. I think
gave up her own kids. She gave up her kids to this guy and let this guy take her kids for years.
One child, yeah.
Ugly. Right.
Yeah, that's a whole other story too.
I know, Cynthia Lennon was so pretty. Why would John leave her for that?
And then she would go on tour with him when Wings and be in the band.
There's a lot of hypnotism going on too, but listen, we're down to 2 minutes before the after show ends. So anybody wants to plug something, plug it now. We got Tina Foster first. Go ahead.
Just look at my plasticmacca.blogspot.com. Just do some research.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Tina, so much. Mike Gray, you want to plug something?
No, we're good.
Mike Gray from infinityhomeplans.com. New radio show coming up called Parlay, which we may be carrying on my news station coming up. Okay, Josh Brookshire. Anything you want to plug?
I just want to plug my belief that I'm not arguing with anybody, man. I'm just saying, I'm open-minded.
I love you, Josh. Relax, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But let me say, bookhouse.bandcamp.com. We got a new record called Bubbling Crude out soon. Love you, Ed. Thank you, man.
Love you, too. So Josh wants to plug that he's not arguing. Now, 504, anything you want to plug?
There's nothing I want to plug other than I'm very interested in this. I remain interested. All aspects of what were brought out tonight are certainly relevant to the whole story, and I do believe Josh is on to it. There's much more behind the scenes. Too many quote-unquote coincidences.
Amen.
Thank you all. Good night.
Patty Walking Turtle, plug.
Oops, can't get to it.
Walk too slow.
I'm telling you. Where the Wild Things Grow. Tomorrow, be there on awakeradio.us for Where the Wild Things Grow at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time with me, your host, Walking Turtle. Okay, good enough.